when we as data journalists, right, we are very obsessed with numbers. So for us, election, right, a lot of data journalists like to look at the result numbers and try and compete with each other to come up with the best analysis, right? That usually happens after the election. But if you think about it, okay, if you think about it, after the election, right, the results is already there. Okay, you can take forever to analyze the result, and it will not have much impact because the election has passed, right? Winners are there. Okay. However, we often overlook the most important stage before the election day, which is, helping our voters, helping our readers to make a better informed choice during the election. Okay. And one of it is, how do we introduce or how do we report the candidates, right? So that the voters understand who are they, and from there they're able to make a better decision. Okay, so for me, I think this is actually the more important work that should be done, by a journalist. Okay, so let's look at some examples here. I'd like to use example from the Straits Times. They just did their general election coverage last year, and for this election, right, they came out with some very good reporting approach and some data journalism as well. So look at this. When they're looking at candidates from different parties before the election time, right? They actually make it interactive, right? Again, they're using data. They are trying to show you how many candidates have a background in law, but instead of just showing you the number, okay, they have this interesting interactive where you can click on them and say, I'm done. And they'll tell you, all right, actually 26 of them, have a law background, but I selected 30 of them. Okay. Then they'll tell you who are they, what are the other backgrounds of those journalists, from which party. Right. So this is actually comparing like different political parties in Singapore and see, the background of their candidates. And then the new faces, right? So let me just probably more about this. Oh, yeah, I underestimate the number of new faces. Right, then it will show you like in the previous elections, okay, how many new faces in the different elections. Right. And how many young candidates, right? Those are under 40 years old. Let me try. Oh, wow. There are very few of them. Right. And then it will show you the distribution of age among all the candidates. Who is the youngest? This youngest guy, he is only 23. Then the oldest is actually 80 years old. Right. But I don't think anyone can, be older than our former Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir. I think he's 96 this year. And I think he's going to contest the election again. Probably will be called, the election probably will be called next year. So he might be like the oldest candidate, in the world. Right, so you have time, yeah, you can look at those story, right? I think this is a very good story, right? The key here is that they make it, interactive and ask you to guess. And their infographics or the data visualization is actually quite simple and straightforward, very clear. Okay. Thanks, Juan, for sharing all the links in the chat box. Yeah, please bookmark them. Another story I would like to show you, right, is how do you make candidates' information relevant to different individual, right? One way of doing that has been done by Carl Matters, right? Of course, this is to look at California legislators. Legislators means that candidates who have been elected, who have won, right? But the same concept can be used for candidates, right? So what happened is that they will ask you to choose, who are you, your demographic. I am a male or female or transgender. Let's say I'm a male. And are you white, black, Latino, Asian, or Pacific Islander, or multi-ethnic? Let's say I'll choose white. Are you LGBT or heterosexual? All right. Which age? Let's say I put 50s, and my income is over 100,000 a year. And you see that these are the lawmakers, right, that have the similar demographic, than me, right? But if you are a minority, let's say I'm a female, black, I'm a female Latino, LGBT, in my 30s, and I don't earn that much money, no one is actually, have the same demographic like me. Right, let me see, let me just change it. Yeah, it's very hard to find a minority. Okay, so imagine like you can do this for the candidates of different parties, and you can tell people that, okay, which party actually have more candidates that like you, right? I think that is, a way of making people, of helping people to understand the candidates, and also helping people to understand the diversity of the candidates, and whether the candidates, reflect the national population, right? And at the same time, you are able to personalize the story, right? You make it relevant to the individual who is reading the story, right? Instead of telling them like the Singapore Straits Times story, how many new faces, how many of them have a law degree, you can actually, tell them that, who are the candidates that look like you, right? They share the same characteristic like you, right? So those are some of the reports that we can do about candidates. Another one, a more important information about candidates, but harder to get, right, is actually the political and economic background, right? For example, and of course their political background as well. Political and economic, sorry. The economic interest, family ties, how many terms in office, political loyalty sometimes, right? How many times they switch to different political camps or different parties, right? So here are two stories that I would like to use as example. One is the one done by BBC News Indonesia in 2018. Is to show you, the political dynasties in your area, right? So let's say, okay, I'll just put in Jawa Tengah. And you see that it tells you that, okay, there are two candidates who have another family member, right, in politics or in, position of power as well, right? Then you can then check daerah lain, right, to see who are they, right? I think this is very useful, to try to, let people understand, like, sometimes candidates are there not because of their capabilities, but more because of their family. Okay. Another very similar story is done by the reader publication from Taiwan, right? This was done in 2018 as well, when they were having a general election. Okay. So I don't think many people read Chinese here. Let me see if I can translate to English. Okay. So basically, again, looking at, family members who are in the legislative branch. Okay. So look at who the whole family is councillor. So for example, okay, let me just switch back to in Chinese. It's easier. I can explain to you. So this rank, right, this list, right, will tell you councillor or lawmaker who has the most number of family members who are also, councillors or lawmakers in Taiwan, probably in the different districts or different constituencies, right? This is the number, the color. The color shows how many family members, right? And then if you move on, you see that there are two circles, right? Which means the same person, but this person has been in the legislative hall for 2 terms. Okay. Then this is his brother, right? This guy, his brother, 1 term, and he has another brother, also 1 term, right? So his father, 2 term lawmakers, and the brother 1 term, and another brother 1 term, right? And here it is the secondary secondary family members, right? So more distant family members, right? They are relative, right? And this is his in-law, right? His in-law has been the lawmaker for 6 terms, right? You can see there are 6 circles here, okay? And another one, 2 term, another one, 8 term lawmakers, okay? 8 term lawmakers. So you can see that in his family, right? The blue color is he himself, right? He has been in the legislative for 4 terms, okay? Plus his father, 2 term, and a brother, another brother, and an in-law, and another relative, and another relative, right? So altogether, the whole family, right, has been in power for 24 terms, okay? But the terms, of course, might be, you know, overlapping with each other, right? Then you look at the second one, the third one, right? So they rank them, you know, like this, okay? And of course, you are able to check, right, your city or your province, right, to look at who are those with, you know, family members as lawmakers in your province, okay? Then they will also look at, you know, before you are getting into the national legislative council, you need to become a lawmaker first. Then you are able to get into, you know, the federal level, okay? And how many terms you have to spend, right? They actually look at, you know, they have to do research for over 9,000 representatives, okay? 9,000 representatives since 1940s. They collected all the data since 1940, and they have to verify their relationship, right? Whether, you know, they are the in-laws of another lawmaker, or they are the niece or nephew, you know, things like that. Because they are not just looking at direct family member, they are also looking at, you know, the secondary or more distant relationship, right? I think this is something that, you know, also a very common phenomena in Southeast Asia. We see the same political dynasties in Indonesia, in Philippines, in Malaysia as well, right? So this is probably something that we can collect starting from now, and it will give our voters, you know, more information about candidates, right? And another more important information about the candidates, you know, are sensitive information about them. For example, criminal records, court cases, right? How many court cases they face in court, you know, whether they have any criminal records in the past, right? So here's a story from Reuters on the 2019 India election. The thing here to notice is that instead of showing like names, right? Here you can see that they are all names, right? The California also give you names, right? Here they decided to use pictures, right? Because the election commission collects the pictures of all candidates. If you want to contest, you need to submit the form, you need to submit a photo, right? And the election commissions make the photo public, right? So you are able to access all the photos. So instead of showing all the names or, you know, just showing numbers, they decided to show all the faces, right? Which is, I think, is brilliant and it's interesting, right? So you just scroll how many candidates here, because India is huge, right? As the we used to call it the biggest democracy in the world because of its population, and of course, and also because of the number of elections at different levels they have to organize. So far you have scrolled through 2,000 candidates. 2,000 candidates. If you keep scrolling, you'll see that there's one seat, right? There are 185 candidates, right? These are some fun fact about the election. 185. I'm not sure how the voter is going to vote and how long the ballot paper is going to look like. Okay. Keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling. 5,000 candidates already. Scrolling, 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 going down. The same person can run for 2 seats, okay, for example. And after you scroll through 7,000 candidates, right, then only you started to see women candidates, right? And they have only 9% of women candidates, right, which is 723. Okay, a very, very small percentage of the candidates. So these are the women candidates. And interestingly, there are 6 candidates of the third gender. Okay, so in total, there are 8,000 candidates. Right. The interesting thing is that there are criminal charges, faced by different candidates. And you see this guy, I don't know how he could get 240 cases alone, right? This candidate. Another guy got 200 cases. Another guy got 27 cases, right? And I have actually an Indian friend told me that, it's like if you don't have any criminal case, right, with you, it's very hard for you to get elected in India. Of course, that's a joke, right? A joke. But just that, yeah, I don't know like what is happening with their politics, right? But this is interesting, okay? So they categorize them according to different party. So you can see that the current ruling party, BJP, led by Modi, they have a lot of candidates with a lot of cases, court cases. And this is actually criminal case, right? It's not just like civil case, it's criminal case. Okay, so then here you're able to explore, who money as well. So you'll see that this is their asset, how rich they are. Because again, the data came from the Election Commission, because you need to declare all those things, before you can contest. Right. So I think these are some of the interesting, things about the election. Of course, they did not go into very detail because they are not a local publication, right? They're just Reuters, right? This is more for international audience, right? For people like us who don't really know about Indian election, and they want to give us a introduction, overview of the election. But if you are covering for local audience, probably you can go deeper by allowing them to search for a name, to look at their background. It's like building a database, right, for your readers to search all the candidates, right? That would be great, right? But again, not every countries allow you to have access to court cases or criminal charges, right? In some countries, we might need to collect the data ourselves or manually compile the data, right? So it really depends. But this is really useful information because it really helps the voters to make their decision, right? To look at what kind of criminal charges those candidates face, right? Another one is their past performance as lawmakers, especially for the incumbents, right? If you're already in the office for 3 terms, 4 terms, that it is only fair for us to scrutinize your past records as a lawmaker. Here is an example compiled by some journalists and some activists in Malaysia. It's called My MP. MP stands for Member of Parliament in Malaysia. So kenali MP terpilih Anda dengan teliti, okay, which means in English is that get to know your Member of Parliament in detail. Okay, so if you click on any Member of Parliament, they want to make it a little bit more fun. So they actually draw the cartoon using pixel of each Member of Parliament. We currently have 220 Member of Parliament. So if I click on any of one of them, it will tell me all the CV, right? All the CV background of the Member of Parliament. And sometimes for certain member of parliament, it will also tell you how many questions he or she asks in the parliament. Usually in Malaysia, right, if you want to know how hardworking your parliamentarian or your member of parliament is, right, you look at how many times they raise questions in the parliament and what kind of questions that he or she raised, right? So you can see a small symbol here, that's a frog, right? It means that he has switched party before, right? Jumping from one political party to another party. So there's a frog icon here, okay? Election season, because this is how the voters will be able to get information about their member of parliament, or later they actually will become candidates as well if they continue to contest. Okay, let me see if I can find something that yeah. So you can see that this member of parliament, her name is Nuriza Anwar. She is the daughter of current opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim. So you can see that she has asked this soalan is questions. She has asked 12 questions in the parliament. So if you click on it, and you will see these are all the questions that she asked. So from here you can judge, what is her focus, what kind of issues that she was trying to raise in the parliament, right? Okay, so these are some of the ways that you can make the whole, you can make the examination of the lawmakers' abilities, capabilities, right, more transparent and more accessible. Because a lot of times we know that during elections, right, it's more about personality, right? Individual versus individual personalities, right? But in fact, right, I think what really important, the focus should be, how capable they are. There's no like a perfect way to measure that. So it depends on what the situation in your country, right? You can find some data that is that can help the voters to measure their capabilities. I will have to stop the music. Sorry guys, there's a video going on here. Okay, so this is another story done by a local newspaper in Malaysia, The Star. They're also trying to look at the performance of lawmakers, of the MPs in parliament in Malaysia. Right, so you'll see that again, who asked the questions, right? So let me just I'm not sure why it's not working. Oh, I should put the not sure why is it not right. But this is like what all the topics asked during the parliament sitting, and by which MPs. Okay, and here who are you calling stupid? This is when MPs in the parliament calling each other stupid. How active is your MP? So let me see if I can. Yeah, this one I can search, right? So you look at the opposition leader, Anwar Ibrahim. You'll see that these are the questions that he asked about poverty, race and religion, food production, yeah, things like that. Okay. So another way of compiling the data from the parliament Hansard, the data is actually from Hansard. Hansard is the meeting minutes of each parliament sitting. Right. So those are some of the ways that you're able to do before the election to help the voters to understand the candidates better, right? Because I think that is the key in every election. Okay? You want the voters to have all the information so they're able to make a better choice. Okay. So far, any questions, any comments in the chat box? Let me see. I think everyone is good with that. If you have any comments, any suggestions, any questions, right? For example, where did they get the data and things like that, okay? You can put into the chat box. I'll try to respond to you, okay? Let me see the time. Okay, I think we are good on time. Another way of reporting election using data, right, before the election day, before the polling day, is to look at, why this election is important, right? Because voters need to know what at stakes, right? Why this election is important, why my vote is important, and why I should make my effort, right, to go and vote on polling day, right? So this is where you're able to do stories, like this. For example, try to look at, all the election reporting by US media in 2020, because it's the presidential election and all medias are trying to do their best, right, to cover the election. And there are a lot of things we can learn from them, right? So one thing that they focus a lot is to tell people that, where are the battleground states, right? Battleground states, which means, the states that are able to decide who will be the next president of the United States. So for example, they'll do this interactive, like if Biden's, won Michigan, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, right, Wisconsin, then he will win the election, right? You can choose like different possible outcome, right? So people often ask, right, like, why do we need this kind of analysis, right? This is like, we do our analysis. This is like very technical, and it's not very helpful. But actually, it is very helpful, because you want to let people know that their vote is important, right? If they go to vote, especially in this key battleground states, right, they are able to change the result. People want to know they have the power to decide who will be in office for the next 5 years or 4 years, right? So in that case, it's very important to tell people that why this election is important, right? How your every single vote from the voters are able to decide the eventual the end results, and to decide who are going to be your leader in the next term. Okay. So this kind of analysis, right, is actually very important. But the key here is always that how do you make it easy to understand, and also probably you can make it like interactive like this. Okay, let's say Biden won Texas. Yeah, and then you'll see only 3 states will give him the victory. Right. So key backgrounds, possible scenarios, right? What happened if is there a possibility of candidate A winning, or there is no way for A to win at all? Things like that. Okay. Another one is to look at this story done by Straits Times again, but it was done in 2018 on the Malaysian elections. So imagine, right, Singaporean covering Malaysian election. So this is more like an overview of the elections and trying to explain to Singaporeans and the international audience, right, to tell them that why this election in Malaysia is important, right? So it is a very good example of how do you show, it's more like an explainer, okay, explainer of an election happening in another country, right? So they'll tell you that, okay, Malaysia has 222 parliamentary seats. If you won 112, right, then you can become the government. And the 2/3, if you won the 2/3 of the seats, you're able to push through important laws, for example, constitutional amendments. But then they'll tell you, where are the opposition state, where are the ruling coalition. Okay, very smooth and impressive data visualization. Then they look at key battlegrounds, right? Where are the territories of each political party or coalition? And after they look at the federal election, they look at the state election, right? Because Malaysia, the general elections have 2 levels, the federal and the states. Okay. Yeah. So it doesn't go into very detail, but it is to show people who are not familiar with Malaysian election, right, to have a basic understanding of the politics or the elections in Malaysia. So if you are writing not for a local audience, but for more a regional audience, right, this might be the approach that you want to use.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. There's one question from Anis. She asked how to get all of those information and data, because politicians sometimes cover themselves, like they cover each other. I think you understand the bahasa Indonesia here.
I understand about so to get those information, right, of course, the easiest way, right, is to get it from official, for example, the election commission, right? However, different countries have different rules of what information can be made public by the election commissions. For example, I think in the Philippines and Indonesia, you can get more information from the election commissions compared to the Malaysian election commission. In Malaysia, our election commission give very limited information. Okay, so for example, I'm not sure which data set are you referring to. Maybe you can make it clearer. Just to show you that, like this one, right? They look at the questions asked by the MPs. They base it from the Hansard. Hansard is the meeting minutes of the parliament sittings. Okay, so you go to the parliament website, download all their meeting minutes, and you have to then find out who asked what and further categorize them, right? And for example, the criminal charges in India, right? I think they have the data released by the election commissions. Okay, so let me just scroll to the bottom here. You can see that the sources is Association for Democratic Reform. I think this is a NGO, right? Election Commission of India. The Election Commission gave them the data. And the candidates' pictures coming from the Election Commission of Data, India as well. Yeah. So there are different sources. Sometimes they are from government, sometimes they are from NGOs. Sometimes the journalists have to try to dig them out, and compile them. For example, in Malaysia, if I want to find all the court cases involving a person, right, I might want to go to the court. Will not tell you. Our Malaysian court, they will not tell you the data. Okay, you will have to go and ask the private companies. There are companies that do due diligence check for people. Like if you're a lawyer, right? If you're a lawyer, you want to check whether this individual, he has any criminal record, he has any court cases before, right? Then you will go to this company and pay to get information, right? Sometimes you want to look at, I'm not sure about other countries, but you want to look at in Malaysia, there's this credit score. In the US, it is also very popular with credit score, right? How many debts you have, how much debt you have, did you serve your debt on time, those kind of things, right? You can pay those kind of companies that do this kind of background checks for you, and they will be able to get all the information for you about court cases, about whether you are bankrupt or not, many other things, right? In Malaysia, the company is called CITOS. Okay, you can do credit check, credit score, including court cases, right? But of course, you need to pay them. Okay, it's not free because this is a private company, right? But they have the data of all or every individual. So let's say you want to check, there are 500 candidates, right? Then you have to prepare to pay for 500 people. So that's part of the cost to get information in some countries. Okay, I hope that I answered the questions. So let's go back. If you have more, if you want to be more specific, Anis, about what type of data, you can put in the chat box. I'll try to explain. Right. Another one key is to focus on policies. Okay. Just now we look at candidates, right? But election is not all about candidates, right? It is about policies, it is about manifesto of different political party as well. Okay, so this is something that is also very important, is how do you help people to understand whether the political party, what do they stand for, all right? What kind of policies they will introduce if they win the election. And for the incumbent party, right, the ruling party, right, what is their past performance? So for example, again, from Reuters covering India election in 2019, they did this very simple story about Modi's report card. When he contested the 2014 election, he made promises or pledges, right? I mean, all politicians like to do that, right? They have to tell you that, oh, we are going to make your life much better because we are going to do this and this and this and this. Okay, then you give them 5 years or 4 years. Were they able to fulfill all the pledges or the promises, right? So somebody has to go and look at it, right? And do a fair examination of their record, right? So this is a very simple way of doing that, right? Is to look at, whether it has been fulfilled or not, right? Reform the agriculture produce, things like that, right? Of course, sometimes, it's only partially fulfilled, right? And for different sectors and economies, sectors and fields, whether they have fulfilled their promises they made in the last elections, right? The sources, again, if you look at it, there's an election promises tracker. Okay, I think this is done by some non-profit, some NGO, right? That tracks, all the policies by the government. Okay, I think after the last election in Malaysia, they also started a promises tracker. Okay, so this is something that you can do before the election, and also you can make it into a long-term project after the election. So after the election, you can then do a website that updates maybe every month to track whether the government fulfill what they have promised during the election. Okay, after looking at past performance, of course, you want to look at the future, right? The future is, okay, what they promised to do. Sometimes we call it the manifesto of every candidate, sometimes every parties as well. They will come out and tell you that, okay, this is what we are going to do, and you should support us because we are going to do this, okay? This is usually more important than personality, right? But unfortunately, personality story is the story that sells better, right? Because it's about, oh, he called the opponent a dog, and then this guy called the opponent a traitor, right? And this guy is called terrorist, US agent, for example, right? These are some of the labels that we like to use in our region. Okay, but what really important, I think, is really manifesto, right? They tell you what they want to do, what kind of policies they're going to introduce or they're going to change, right? So there are several ways of doing that. Usually policy story is boring story, okay? People don't like to read that because it's not very colorful, right? So for example, in Taiwan, this is done by the Initium publication, right? They do an interactive, right? So there are 3 presidential candidates in the Taiwan presidential election. So you can choose that. Have you decided who do you want to vote for? Or you can say that I have not decided. Okay. Then choose 9 issues here. So I'm going to choose 4. Let's say these are the 4 issues that I care most about, and I'll tell that I have chosen. Then they will ask you, okay, on the housing policy, which types of policy do you agree with? You can also choose to skip this question. This is about tourism. This is about justice reform. This is about the South China Sea dispute. This is university. And this is about employment. And this is about food safety. Okay, this is tax reform, right? Then if you want to give your personal information, you can, but you can also skip. these questions. And here, it will tell you that, based on what you choose, this women president candidate, right, Tsai Ing-wen, right, she's now the current president. She won that election. So her policy is 41.7%, similar to your answers. So this is to help you to, choose the candidates or the party based on policies, right, and not based on, whether whether she's a woman or he's a man, or who is better in debating, right? Yeah, who has the most money in putting out advertisement, right? But this is based on policies. Okay, then you can look at in detail for each issue, what are the 3 candidates' stance on them. Okay, I think this is something that we should encourage more, right? Politics should be based on policies and issues, not on personalities. This is another example. This was done during the presidential election, but not between Biden and Trump, but this is among the Democrats candidates when they are doing the primary, right? So US, you have the primary, you have to win the primary before you can represent your party to contest with another party. Okay, so again, very similar. They ask you some questions, you answer the questions. Then candidates who agree with you, okay? Yeah, you can see who agree with you based on your answer, okay? And you'll see that here's the total, the total score. Okay, so you get it right. Just answer all the questions, and here you'll be able to see who is again, who agree and who disagree with some of your answers. Okay, this is done by Washington Post. If you look at this, this is not very hard to do, right? In terms of the development, right? You just get a web developer and some basic coding will be able to give you this, right? So these are some of the ways. Again, maybe you want to ask, right, why is this data? It is data, right? It is data because it is converting all the different policies into scores, right? Into a database, and you choose your answer, it will match your answer with the candidates, right? So behind those interactions, behind those little quiz and games, right? What actually is happening is actually data organizing and data matching. So this is also data reporting as well, right? So don't just think about numbers, but policies, performance, those can be quantified as well. When you can quantify something, then you are able to call it data reporting. Of course, we have campaign transparency, right? Nowadays, the Facebook ad library. Let me just show you Facebook ad library very quickly. I think I can open it. Facebook ad library. For all countries, you are able to go into your Facebook ad library. You can choose the country. So let me go to, let's say, Philippines. And I'll click go to report. Sorry, I should pick the issues, elections, or politics, and go to report. And you'll be able to see how many ads in the ad library, how much money has been spent to buy those ads on Facebook, right? And you can choose how long you want it to be. And you look at which page has bought advertisement on Facebook, okay? Not all of them are politics because it also includes social issues. For example, if you're advocating for certain social issues or rights, probably human rights and things like that, right? You're able to find the advertisement here, okay? Then you are able to download the data as well. So this will help you to look at who spend how much money in the elections, and whether those who spend more on Facebook are able to get more votes, for example. However, one thing that I would like to know, I would like you guys to try to push in your country is that in the 2018 Taiwan presidential election in Taiwan, they are able to ask Facebook to give them more data, not just who bought how much of advertisement, but how those advertisements are targeting different users on Facebook. Okay, I'll just show you the story here. Okay, this is only for the election in Taiwan. Let's say you are able to pick. The first one is your location. Where do you stay? Okay. How old are you? Right. So let me put 25. Whether you are your gender, male or female. Okay. So if you stay in this area, 25 female, these are the advertisements bought by politicians or political party that were targeting you, okay, based on your location, age, and gender, right? And who bought the ads, okay, and what is the ads about? Okay, you can click. It's supposed to have pictures here. I'm not sure what is happening. Okay. So this one, Facebook actually give more data access to the media in Taiwan, just for the election period. So I think probably journalists in different countries in our region, we should ask the same access for those. Okay, because right now, if you look at our ads library, you're only able to see who bought ads, how many of them, how much they spent, and the location. Okay, and that's it. You won't be able to know who they target, and all those details, right? But I think Facebook is willing to provide that, right? Since they already done that for Taiwan, so I think we can ask for the same access as well, right? So to do this, the journalists have to stand together and probably negotiate with Facebook to have more information about just political, ads. I don't think they will give you details of all ads out there, but I think it's fair to ask for political ads. Okay, so these are some of the. This is during campaign, right? When you know who are the candidates, after you introduce the candidates and all those things, you can start to look at their campaigning strategy, right? And something that you can look at, and something that is very popular right now, is actually social media targeting. Okay. Another thing is, of course, very important, is about money politics, and it's about campaign spending. How much you spend for each campaign, right? How much our candidates spend, right? And again, the data for campaign spending sometimes might. So in some countries, for example, in Malaysia, right, we have very limited data given by the authority, right? And the whole system doesn't even tell you what is the true spending of each candidate, right? That's the unfortunate problem. So when this is happening, right, you can actually try some crowdsource approach. For example, again, in Taiwan presidential election, by reader, they actually make this crowdsource, to ask people to, if you see a political billboard, right, those big board out there asking you to vote for candidates or political party, you can take a picture and you can send to them. Okay, so if you send to them, then they'll put in this database. Okay, and you see these are all the pictures sent by the readers, right? All the political billboards. Okay, so from there, they're able to do some estimation, right? It's not very accurate, but estimation of how much all those billboards, if you total them up, right, how much does it cost? Okay, this is to choose which candidate, presidential candidates, or the legislative hall candidates. This is the different areas, different district, right? So this is again another way of collecting the data if you don't have that provided by you by the government. So something to think about, right? Are you able to crowdsource data from your readers? Okay, in this case, right, it is easy to verify because they have to send. So it's not that easy to made up something, or it's not that easy to send you false information, right? Because you always need to send a photo, and it will tell you that this photo has been verified 3 times. They actually verified it. And they will also tell you that, we don't have the price, the advertisement price for this location. Okay, so here again, when you don't have data like that, probably you can ask from your users, but be very careful because you need to be able to verify the information. You need to be able to make sure that the information submitted by the readers are accurate and can be trusted, right? Another thing is to make your own estimation. For example, this one, this is very interesting. Like, okay, if you want to contest, how much money you need to spend. So if you start and you pick, which level of elections you want to contest, right? So this is mayor, right? And it tells you that in your constituency there are 2.18 million voters, and then you can choose what kind of things you want to buy to give them. Face masks, I think this is tissue papers, pen, the tote bags, right? Then you want to buy like the billboard, those buntings, right? Events, organize mega events, right? Do you want to have Facebook ads, television ads, yeah, all those things, okay? And you can put like many of them. You're done, you click I'm done. Yeah, and this is how much you have to spend if you buy all those materials for publicity. Okay, and this is how much you spend, and this is how much the mayor actually spent according to the real expenditure. There's a questions from Eliza. Eliza, it's very hard to answer questions because all the authoritarian countries, they are authoritarian, right? So if they are authoritarian, which means that elections are not really fair elections, right? So how do you cover if fair elections if the elections is not? How do you cover an election if it is not fair? It is no longer an election, right? So I actually don't think that you should use the same approach to cover any election in authoritarian countries, right, like China, because a lot of time their elections have been predetermined even before they start, right? But of course, I'm not referring to like specific country. I'm just saying that in general, that's the trends, right? You look at elections in, for example, Russia, China, right? You see that the ruling party won more than 90%, 95% of the seats or the votes, right? So it is not really a fair election. So I don't think you're able to you're able to use all these different approaches. Yeah, probably you need to look at different ways of covering that, right? And I won't cover here because this is about Southeast Asia. Okay, we need to go into a break very soon. I still have several slides to finish. So on election day, okay, I don't have to spend much on this. I don't have to explain much on this. You know what happened, right? Election day, people want to know the live results, right? So there are different ways of doing that. Usually people use a map, right? And simple chart like this to show who passed who won the majority, right? Okay, so again, look at different publications during the 2020 US elections to see how they visualize it, right? I think there are a lot of good presentation, good ways of doing that, okay, for election day. I think this is the one that most of you are very familiar with, right? I don't have to repeat too much. Okay, after the election, right, you still can do, for example, this is also a classic, a lot of people do this, is to look at a swing between party. For example, here, how Joe Biden won the presidential election by Reuters. You'll see that they'll look at the swing in different county in the US, okay? What is more interesting is that they use this cone, right, to show the swing, which actually I like. Instead of showing like different colors, dark and light, right, this one actually shows the swing much clearer, okay? And nowadays there are like new ways of doing that, right? Sometimes New York Times like to use the arrow, that the arrow is going left or going right, and the size of the arrow will tell you how much is a swing. Okay, so those are some of the tricks that you can use. Another interesting thing is that if you compare vote with voter demographic, you sometimes get, you're able to explain, why people voted so, right? For example, this story done by Bloomberg for the 2017 French election, right? It shows you in my 5 maps that shows you why Macron beat Le Pen. If you look at here, this is the national results. Yellow color means the areas where Macron won over Le Pen. Blue colors are the areas where people supported Le Pen. Le Pen is the far right, presidential candidate who was against immigrant, So you see that when unemployment rate are high, you have high employment rate in those areas are more likely to support Le Pen, right? So you can see these 2 maps will tell you that they match with each other, right? And if you look at voters with higher education degree, right, those areas where people, have higher education qualification, they tend to support Macron more, right? So his supporters are from those highly educated. That's it, 4 maps. A very simple story, but I explained to you like why people, some people support Le Pen and some people support Macron, right? So these are some of the things that you can do, but you need 2 sets of data. One is the voters, the election results. Another data is the demographic, right? So you can compare, for example, young versus old, urban, rural, race, income level, local versus outstation voters, things like that. After election as well, you need to tell people who won, who are the winners. So here is another very similar story by Carl Mathers. Remember that just now, you look at who are the legislators they look like you, right? So they did this again. Language, whether they speak English or Spain. This is the website. The website language, right? So legislators and overview. You can see Democrats versus Republican. You can also look at age, gender, race, ethnicity, income level. Whether they are new faces or incumbents. Okay, and you can look at legislators that look like you. Okay, you need to choose whether you are Democrats and whether you are black, white, ethnicity, your sexual orientation, okay, and your age and how much you make. Yep. Okay, so there are 3 of them that share the same demographic like you. Okay, again, this is a very good way of personalizing the information. Okay, just now I want to show you how New York Times did the swing analysis. You can see they use arrows. This is interesting because they actually found that in areas where there are more immigrant, they actually supported Trump more than Biden. Interesting, right? You thought that Trump is the one who is against immigration, right? Against immigration, against receiving refugees. But this policy is actually supported by immigrant neighborhood, which means areas where there are more immigrants. So the immigrants are actually against receiving more immigrants. Okay, so this is something that is very interesting, I think.
Yeah, the same thing in the UK as well. So the immigrants pro the Brexit.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing I want to look at long-term trends. So this is done by today Times of India. They just look at how BJP dominates Indian politics. Okay, you see that how India turned from blue to saffron. Blue is the National Congress. Okay, Saffron is the current ruling party by Modi, BJP. So you'll see that in early, let's see that it's a gift, so I can't really control it. So you look at in the 80s, most of it are blue color, right? The Congress, National Congress. And you see how the orange color expanding over the years. And in the latest election, they almost monopolized the whole country. You see? Yeah, this is pretty impressive, right? Okay, right. So you can look at like long-term, right? Long-term trends in your country of a certain political party. Okay, so those are some of the things that you can do. Okay, so I know that we have been going on for almost 1.5 hours. We have another 1 hour to go. So let's take a quick break for, I think we can take a 10 minutes break. Is that okay? So I know that my time now is 11:56. I think Jakarta time should be 10:56, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. I'm typing it in the chat room, right? We will resume after 10 minutes. Let's take like 15 minutes break. It's easier. At 12, 10, or 11, 10 a.m.
Okay.
If you have any, if you have any questions, put in the chat box. We can respond to that, right? So after you come back, please open up your Google Sheets. We're going to do some practical exercise, some very simple spreadsheets functions, right, for beginners. Okay, see you in 10 minutes.
Okay, see you guys in 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, so it's until 11 at Jakarta time.
Okay.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Hello, welcome back. So right now we start to hands-on practicing, okay? Or do you want to continue with the slide?
Yeah, we'll start the practice. So let me just again share my screen.
Okay.
Right, everyone. So let's start to work with some data, right? So I would like to get you all to open up your laptop if you're on a laptop, right? So get ready to practice, do it together, right? But just a disclaimer that this is for this session is for beginners, okay? If you are an expert spreadsheet user, right, you can actually, if you're gonna follow us, you're welcome. But if you want to go, it's fine, right? You won't miss anything important, right? This is for really beginners, okay? So let's look at some of the data sets on data.asia, right? So let me send you the. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to find the Zoom docs. I'm trying to share with you this datatalk.asia, right? So just go into their website.
Okay, I'll share the website.
Kind of weird because I cannot find like the
Okay.
I find that the bar. Sometimes the bar just disappeared from my screen. I have two screens here, so it's a little complicated. Okay. All right. This is the website, where journalists, or journalism organizations, 3 countries, I think, Indonesia, Philippines, and Malaysia. Okay. So if you just click onto dataset, there are 2 good resources here. I think this one is dataset, the other one is stories. Stories is good because you are able to see what kind of data reporting you can do with some data sets in this website, right? So these are like the reporting recipe, okay? The recipe, these are the materials. So if you have the materials, you follow the recipe, you can cook some good story, okay? So let's look at the data set. Today I want you to look at the data sets of Facebook ad by potential candidates in May 2020 election. I'm going to share with you just directly the link so that everyone get it. Okay, this is the Facebook ads by potential candidates in May 2020 elections. We know that for Philippines, right, next year is a big year because it's the presidential election, okay, for next 2020, as well as all the senators and whatnot, okay. So many candidates have started their campaign unofficially this year, right? And those are not considered as campaigning according to the law because because it is much early, right? Right now, right? So you are able to read some of the description here, okay? So if you can scroll here to click download the data, and you will get an XLSX file, right? So then you can open up the file and it looks like this. Let me make it bigger. Okay, rank number 1, number 2, which politicians. The official spending by this politician, and also the supporter spending, which means that the ads are not directly bought by the politician page, right? But bought by other, pages that support him or she, okay? And you add up the 2 numbers, you get a total, right? And what are some of the Facebook page name? These are the different Facebook page names, and these are the spending, right? So you will see that for the official spending, it is done by the 2 official website, right? This figure plus this figure, I think you'll get this, okay? And you have supporters website, right? Supporters Facebook pages, okay? And if they bought advertisement, right, these 2 figures are under here, okay? This data set, right, have been cleaned by PCIJ, right? the PCIJ is the Philippine Center for Independent Journalism, right? I think they have cleaned it, they have compiled, calculate everything, and they will also make a remarks here. Okay. However, if you want to do the same thing for your country, okay, then you will have to go to Facebook ad library. So I want to show you how you can do that as well. You go to, you just search ad library, Facebook ad library. And this is the URL. So for those who use this first time, I really encourage that we do it together, right? You go to this website, you'll see Facebook ad library. It will show you by default your current location. Okay, so if you want to search a different country, you have to choose the country. So I'm going for Philippines as well, because there are more activities in Philippines because the election is coming, right? Okay, Philippines. Sorry, is Indonesia election coming next year as well? It is, right?
Yes, it is, but it's not as earlier as Philippines.
Okay, that's good. So yeah, probably Philippines will see more activities, right? More data for us to practice. Philippines, then you may remember you should add, there are two categories. One is all ads, one is issues, election, or politics, right? So of course, we want to look at issues, elections, or politics. So for every ad that you bought on Facebook, like Facebook will ask you, is this ad related to social issues, elections, or politics? If you say no, but actually it is, right, and somebody report it, they will remove your ads. Okay, they will remove your ads. Okay, so this is how they force you to declare, right? Don't have to search anything here, right? Just click on this two, and you keep scrolling down. Oh, sorry, you should click go to report, not scrolling down. After you pick your country, issues, election, politics, you just go to report. You open up a new tab, right? That tells you total number of ads, total amount spent. Okay, and it will give you, this one if you want to search for a particular page advertiser, right? We just skip, we just go down here. This is where you can choose whether you want to look at 90 days, 30 days, 7 days, right? So I encourage you to monitor it every 90 days, download the data every 3 months, so you have continuous data. Or if you want to do it for whole year, you can choose all dates. All dates doesn't mean whole year. It means that, sorry, it doesn't mean until the from the very beginning. It only means 1 year. So August to September, August 2020 to September 2021. Okay, so let's look at 90 days enough. 90 days, and you just keep scrolling down. These are some of the data, right? If you want to manually check them, you can click on the table here. But for us, we want the raw data. So if you want to run the raw CSV file. So let me show you how it looks like. You will get a zip file, okay? If you unzip the file, you will get a folder, right? Go inside the folder, you will see advertisers CSV and location CSV. This is the location CSV. Usually it's not very helpful. Location with more population will have higher spending, which is like right? Everybody knows that. Of course, you spend more money for bigger cities, right? So it doesn't really tell you much about that. This is the part that we like, right? We want to look at the advertisers' data. So look at the advertisers' data. Before that, remember, guys, read the README, okay? Read the README. Yeah, this is very important. They tell you how they collect the data, what are some of the caveats or limitations of the data, okay? There's also regions. Regions is if you want to look at different regions, okay? More granular data. So let's look at advertisers, right? Advertisers, I'm going to open with my Excel. Okay. So I got the data here, okay? Right? I'm going to I'm not going to use Excel for this purpose because your Excel might be different than my Excel. So let's try to open the CSV with our Google Sheets. Okay. So what happened here is that I'm going to move the CSV or the advertiser CSV to my Google folder. So now you have a CSV file here. Okay. You can right click on the file and open with Google Sheets. So this is how you can see the data in Google Sheets, and we can start to do some analysis. Okay. Let me know if you want me to go slower. If you want me to repeat something, we can do that. Okay, so let's do this together. So again, just now you download from the ad library. Go to the bottom, that's the download report. Make sure that you download the past 3 months data, okay, by selecting last 90 days. Okay, the last 3 months data, click download. After you download it, you will get a zip file here. You have to unzip the file. You will get a folder, a directory. Go to the directory. You will get the advertiser's CSV file. From there, open up your Google Drive, put the file into your Google Drive, okay? And right-click on the CSV and click Open with Google Sheets. You should get this. Or I can share with you my file. But you can only view the file. You can't edit my file, right? You can copy the file. You can copy the data here and put into your own Google Sheets. So I'm going to double click on the column here so that I'm able to see the full name. Okay. And usually the first thing first is that because the data set is quite long, okay, I will usually freeze the first row so that it's easy to navigate. I'll click View, Freeze one row. Okay, View, Freeze one row. Then your first row will stay there because you want to know, what is this column, what is this column, what is all the columns, right? And I'm going to scroll until the end of the data because I need to know how many rows of data I have, right? So how do you scroll to the end? You can hold down Control on Windows. If you are a MacBook, it's Command, and you press the down arrow. Okay, Control, up, down, right? If you go up, you go to the first row. If you go down, you go to the last row. So now you know that you have 2,407 rows of data. Okay, so there are quite a number of advertisements. This is based on page name, right? Advertisement, how many pages, how many Facebook pages have bought Facebook data related to issues, politics, or elections in the past 90 days, okay? How many ads they have is here, right? Sometimes a page might have 2 advertisements, okay? How much they spend in, this is Filipino peso, how much they spend for the advertisement is here, okay? So if you go to the top, you'll see that it is already sorted according to the highest to the lowest. Then there's a disclaimer. What does this mean? This means that if the ad bought by Ping Lexon, okay, run on the page name Ping Lexon, but it is not paid by Ping Laxon, right? The page did not pay the advertisement. The advertisement is paid by this Ping Laxon Unity movement. This is to let you know who really pay for the ads. Okay, when there is they say that these ads ran without a disclaimer, which means that they don't tell Facebook who really paid for the ads, right? For the ads here, right? Facebook, after allowing them to run the ads, if they don't tell them who really paid for the ads, Facebook will then stop them. Okay, you understand? You will run the ad first. You run the ads, then Facebook will say, okay, who paid for the ads? We think that this is a political ads. Then you did not respond to them, right? You just keep quiet. They will stop your ads, right? According to Facebook, right? I'm not sure how strict they implement it, but this is what they explain here, right? Under disclaimer. Okay, they are required to disclose who paid for the ad. If ads ran without disclaimer, right? We also take down the ads, right? The last sentence, we also take down the ads. Okay, how strict it is, I'm not sure. Okay, you have to ask Facebook about it. So, okay, if there are multiple pages, okay, but paid by the same person, right? We should group them together, right? Because the same person, maybe the same person paid for this page, multiple page, right? So we should group them together so that we know how much they spend. Does that make sense? When we want to do analysis, right? Because they can have different pages names, but if all the multiple pages names are paid by the same person, then we should try to group them together. Okay, and we want to look at how much they spend, right? Of course, we know that this is the highest, but this is only by this page. Okay, maybe Ping Laxon Unity movement also paid another pages, right, to run advertisement. We want to group them together, right? Right. I hope you get the idea, right? So in that case, if we want to do that, right, how do we do that using spreadsheet? Any good suggestions? Maybe, so maybe I should, I can filter this list to look for Ping Laxon Unity movement to see how many pages, sorry, they pay the ads, right? So let's try to do that. When you want to filter a column, okay, you click on the column. I think I should make it bigger, right? Easier to look at. Okay, you click on the column. You put a filter. Here is the create a filter. You put a filter and you see that become light green color with a filter icon. If you click on the icon, okay, here it will tell you that now everything is tick, right? Tick means that you're showing everything. Okay, so we just want to show the Ping Laxon Unity movement. Okay, I hope this guy is a politician. Yeah, is this a politician? Anybody can tell me? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Miguel. Okay. I'm not familiar with Filipino politics, yeah, guys. Right. Now you clear everything, but you can do the same for any country, right? For Malaysia, Indonesia, even Timor-Leste as well, right? So you clear everything. You just want to find Ping Laxon Unity movement, right? Click on that. And probably you want to look at Ping. Don't know whether this guy is going to run or not. But if he or she spends so much money, I can guess that he or she is running. Okay, click OK. And you see that, so the same page, right, by the name of Ping Laxon, there are two groups of advertisement. One group paid by Ping Laxon Unity Movement, another group paid by Ping Laxon. Right? So we should probably group them together. This has been done by, if you remember that the data set by PCIJ, okay? This has been done by PCIJ. here. Politicians and the different Facebook names, right? And they find out the total, right? But if you are looking at latest data, right, you can't just sit there and wait for PCIG to do for you, right? You need to do for yourself, right? So this is how you can get ping lesson, so that you can probably copy the data. You can copy the data, okay? Copy, Control C to copy, or right click, copy. And then you can put into a new tab, right? And then say that this is ping lesson, right? Probably I'll give it a header as well, right? Copy the header here. I'll just put it here, okay? And then I'm going to calculate, the total, right? So if I want to calculate the total, I will put a new column, new row here, equal to. You can do this plus this, okay? Or you can do sum. Sum means that, add up everything. Then you go here and drag, right? You just select both of them, close the bracket, enter, okay? Then the same formula, you can then copy and put it here, paste, and this is the total. Okay, this is good when you're just looking at one politician. You just want to look at ping election, so you can look at one politician, right? And you get this. Okay. However, if you want to look at all the page name, right? You want to group everything together, you are going to repeat the same process many times, right? Filter, find a second person, copy them, put here, add them up, then go back, copy them, put here, add them up again, right? Keep repeating, right? So how do we do it one-off for all the different political ads here? Okay, so there's a way to do that, which is called a pivot table. I think many of you say in the survey that you don't know how to do a pivot table. So far, only 5 of you are able to do it, 5 out of 19. So let me just show you how to do a pivot table. Pivot table is very useful in this case, right? To help us to organize and summarize our data set. So let's clear the filter. We want to see all the data. Clear the filter. How do you clear the filter? Unclick this icon again, and there'll be no filter, right? So now you are looking at a full data set again. All right. So to start a pivot table, okay, first you need to select all the data that you want to put into your pivot table, right? So it's called pivot table, yeah, P-I-V-O-T, pivot table. So to do that, you need to select all the data, right? How do you select all the data? You can use your keyboard. The keyboard is Control A. Control A, okay. Or if you're on MacBook, that is Command A. Control A. And click Insert. No, Data, not Insert. Data, find it under Data. Then you try to look at Insert, right? Under Data, there's a pivot table. Oh, I know. If you're on Excel, Microsoft Excel, right? Then you look at Insert. Pivot table is under Insert. Yeah, correct. Thanks, one. Yeah. For Google Sheets, it's under Data. Click on Pivot Table. All these functions are available on Excel as well, right? So I show you on Google Sheets because everybody have access to Google Sheets, right? But you can do the same operations on Excel as well. Or if you're using OpenOffice, you can also do the same operations on Google Office. OpenOffice, sorry. Click on Pivot Table. Always choose new sheet. Okay, don't change that, because if you put into the existing sheets, it's kind of complicated, right? Just don't change it. Just click Create. You'll see there's a Pivot Table 1. Okay. This is where you are able to summarize your data, group your data together. So now you see that there is a rows, columns, and values. Okay, rows, columns, and value. You need to put something under rows. You can put something under columns. You can put something under values. How do you put something? Right, you click add. Under rows, what do you want to add? You can only add the different columns here. Right now we have 5 columns, right? Page ID, page name, disclaimer, amount spent, number of ads, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we have 5 columns. So under here, we are able to choose which column of the 5 that we want to put it as rows. Okay, so if our purpose is to look at all the disclaimer, right? Who pay for the different pages, right? Let's say how many pages they paid for, right? Then we should put disclaimer under rows. So let's do that. Add disclaimer. And you see B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay. Then if we want to know how much ads have they paid, right? Whether they pay for 1 page or 2 pages or 3 pages, no matter how many pages, right? We want to know the total number of, the amount of advertisement spending that they pay. We will have to put something under values here, values. Okay, so let's click values. And we want to know how much they pay, right? So it's amount spent. Okay, let's click on amount spent. Aha, now you have the list of disclaimer and the amount they spent. So if they pay for multiple pages, right, 1 disclaimer or 1 person, right, pay for multiple pages, pivot table will add them together and show you the total number here. So you don't have to do this thing. Okay, we'll add them together, right? If you want to know how many pages they paid for, right? How many pages? We don't want to look at the sum of amount. We just want to look at how many pages, how many times. For example, probably, the friends of Lauren Lagarda probably pay for Team Lauren Lagarda and also pay for other pages. For example, Lauren Lagarda, right? We want to know how many times, right? How many pages, not how much the amount, right? In that case, we can actually change the amount spent. We can remove it. Okay, remove it. And we can put the page name. Page name means that, tell me for Adam Villarino Minerva, right? How many pages are paid by this account? Okay, so if you want to know like the highest to the lowest, right? You don't do it here, right? My suggestion is that you select all the data, Control A to select the data, copy it, Control C to copy, put into a new tab. Okay, number of pages. When you paste, there's a tip, right? Don't just paste it. If you paste the pivot table with all the functions, right? I just want the data here. Just want the data because I want to do analysis, right? So if you paste, you right click and click paste values only. Okay, you paste values only. Now you don't have all these functions, right? Now it is just the data, right? Normal data. Okay. So after you have done that, I want to know, which account pay for the highest number of page, right? I have to sort them, right, from highest to lowest. Okay, from highest to lowest. So how do I sort them? I have to select my column. Remember that select all the columns that have data, yeah? Go to data, click sort range. Click on data has header row because the first row is the header, right? You don't want to sort that. And sort by count A of page name, right? Count A of page name, which means how many pages. Then sort from lowest to highest or highest to lowest. Of course, we want to know the highest, right? So we look at highest to lowest. And we click sort. And of course, right, just now when we copy and paste, we also copy the grand total, right? So we don't want to look at that. We can remove it, right? Grand total is basically just to add up everything. Okay? It's 24606 because you have 2406 rows of data, right? So we just tell you how many data you have. So you don't need this. You can delete this. And now it will tell you that, there are 1,538 pages that ran without a disclaimer. Okay, ran without a disclaimer. This is actually the largest group. And the second one is Bangon Bayani. Oh, this is interesting. This account pays the advertisement for 41 pages. 41 pages. If I want to know what are these 41 pages, right? So it might mean that this account has a huge network going on, right? It is not just 1 or 2 pages, but 41 pages, right? This account pays for 41 pages. So this is something that is worth investigating, right? We want to know, who are those pages, right? Who are they? Interesting, right? So if you want to know who are these 41 pages, right, we can go back to our pivot table. Look for this guy, right? In this list, this is ABC, this is according to alphabetical order. You can also sort the data here, but I don't like to do that, right? I like to move my data here so that it's more organized, right? You don't mess up your pivot table. So I'll just go to this guy. What is his name again?
Okay. Sorry to interrupt, but the page is not moving. It's like I see the blank spreadsheet here. Is anyone see something? Yeah, on your screen.
Interesting. Let me just stop sharing and share again. Okay. Tell me next time. Tell me.
Nah, yeah, it's working now.
Now it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe because of the connection. All right.
Okay.
So look at Bangon Bayani, right? He has paid advertisement for 41 pages. That's a lot, right? We want to know who are those pages. You can double click on this box. Again, it's under your pivot table. When you're in pivot table, right? You can double click this one, double click, yeah. And you will see that you will open up a new tab for Bangon Bayani, and you will be able to see all the page that this account has paid. Okay, for the Filipino journalist here, who is this guy? Is it a businessman, politician, senator? Anyone knows who is this guy?
Anyone knows from Philippines?
Googled. No idea, man.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like.
Political party, Miguel said.
Political party. Okay, interesting. Like.
So it is a party, not a person, right?
Okay, so I just say it's an account, right? Because you can, anyone can or organization can create an account on Facebook, not a person, right? Okay, political party, yeah. So this account, right, actually spent this money, right, for the number of ads on those different pages, right? Different pages. Again, I'm not familiar with the pages here. I'm not sure who is this guy, who is this account, right? But probably this is something that I will look into. Okay, what are those advertisements? So if you want to know what are those advertisements, right, you have to go back here, the Facebook ad library, and you can start to search the library for advertisers here. Okay, let's say I want to search for trending, maybe something, maybe I just search for this. the same name, yeah. Okay. Here, news and media website. And you'll be able to see the advertisement here. It will take some time to load. Sometimes it doesn't load. You just refresh it, just wait, you know. Sometimes they take a longer time, depends on the server, okay? So then this is how we can do investigation, right? To look at, okay, why this account is paying so many pages with ads. Sometimes it is not really related to politics sometimes, right? So that's fine, right? But this is to show you the methodology, right, of how you can do that. So if we go back here, okay, let's look at the second highest. I'm also looking at the time. We don't have much time left, right? This guy, I believe this is a politician, right? Yeah, I think so. No, he is so this guy is a celebrity. Influencer. Okay, cool. Yeah, influencer are always, you know, interesting to look at. Probably they are trying to support some candidates or political party, right? Interesting, right? So Jano. Okay, let's look at Jano. Jano. Where's my friend Jano? This is Jano. Jano, this one. Jano Sanchez, right? So double click on it, you open up another tab that shows all the pages, right, that this account paid for. Okay, from here you are able to know that this account relationship with all the pages, right? They must be very close. Okay. Okay, Christiana, you have questions. Can you clear my pivot table? We should go to insert or data. Sure, of course. Here, you go to your original data, right? First, remember, Control A, select all the data. Select all your data, right? Make sure they are selected. And go to data and go to pivot table and click create. Okay. And here you're able to put in rows, columns, and values. So for our purpose here, right, we only need to put in rows. For rows, we want to know what accounts pay for the most number of ads. So we should use disclaimer. Disclaimers means this column. Okay. These columns are accounts that pay for the advertisement on these pages. Okay. Then when we have the disclaimer, right, we need to put in under values. Value is what we're going to show here, right? Just now I show you, you can put in the amount spent. They will show you the total amount paid by the different accounts here. Okay. Or you want to add page name, right? Page names means that how many pages they paid the advertisement for. Okay. So just now we have done looking at number of advertisement, right? Number of advertisement. So now we can actually look at, let's look at very quickly look at the values. Who paid for the largest amount? Okay. The largest amount. And again, I will select all my data. Okay. Open up a new tab. That is what I usually do. Paste special paste values, remember? Because you don't want to paste the whole pivot table. You just want to paste the values. And I'm going to sort it. I want to look at the accounts that spend the highest money, right? Highest money on advertisement, no matter how many pages they are paying. Okay. So I'm going to click both column. Okay. So click both column and click data, sort range. Remember the tick data has header because this is the header. You don't want to change it. And sort by sum from biggest to lowest. Of course, the first one is red total, right? We need to remove that. Delete. And the second group is actually, the ads that ran without a disclaimer, right? So we don't need that as well. Well, maybe we can keep that. Okay, now the Pink Lexan Unity Movement actually spend the most money. Okay, the second one is smoke-free conversations.ph. The third one is this. The fourth one is this, right? But remember that this amount are the total, right? The total is this is for each. For this, the original data, right? You only show us for this account, for this account pays for this page by this much, right? If this account pays for multiple pages, right? And the amount is bigger than this, right? Because it pays for multiple pages, right? Then we are able to see the total amounts here. I think this is the same as this one, which means that the Pink Lexan Unity Movement only pays for one page, which is Pink Lexan, and this is the amount that this account has paid. But for smoke-free conversation, not sure what's that. Also the same amount, which means they only pays for one page. Then what about Team Lenny Lobredo? 1817, the same. So they only pays for this account, or that is, so there's nothing much to investigate there. But you want to look at, things like this, right? Like this, right? Like one account, but pays for multiple pages. Okay, so this might tell you a lot of things, maybe they are very close to each other. And probably these pages, probably they are related to each other as well. Okay, so that is how you can do some preliminary analysis using the ads data. Okay, of course, it's always happy to look at, the who pay the highest, the lowest, and things like that, right? Pivot table is able to help you to group them together and to help you to get the total numbers. Whatever you have done on pivot table, okay, you will not change the original data. The data is always here. You will not change it, okay? What you will do is only change, you are only reorganizing the data. Reorganizing the data and look at different, parts of the data, summarizing the data. All right, so just go ahead and play with, the rows, the columns. If I add the column, right, if I put in the page name, you'll get error because I think there are too many page names here. You won't be able to get it, put in so many of them, right? Okay, so that is the Facebook ads spending data, right? Would you allow me another 10 minutes to demonstrate to you another set of data so that we will overshoot by 5 minutes? Do we have the time, One? Or we are rushing for another program?
No, we're not rushing in another program. So I think you can have 10 minutes.
Another one is very simple. I said you are saying that can I share with the Google Slides, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. Let me share with you the Google Slides now, very quickly. Copy link to the site. For those who want to go first, you can go first. For those who have more time, probably you can spend another 10 minutes. I'm going to show you another data sets, how you can work with another data sets. Another data set that I want to show you is the Malaysian elections data sets. Okay, I'm going to put it in the chat box, right? Again, this is for Malaysia, but if you have the list of candidates or results for your country, you can do similar analysis, okay? So again, click download to get the CSV file. After you get a CSV file, you can then upload to your Google folder, okay? Upload complete. I get the data here. Then I right click and click open with Google Sheets. And this is the data, right? So we have more columns here, right? Because these are, so this list, right? each role, let me make it bigger. Each role is for one candidate. This is the name of the candidates. Okay, it's the name of candidates. You can see each name is different, right? And this is the votes that they garnered during the election. This is the constituency, the parliamentary seat that they contested in the last election. Okay, and you will see the status here. Menang means they won. Hilang deposit means that they lost the deposit because their vote numbers are too low, so they lost the deposits. Those blank means that they lost. Okay, basically, they lost. Okay, so you can see that the first seat, right? The first 3 rows is the seat called Segamat. It's a parliamentary seat. Okay, and there are 3 candidates, right? Subramaniam, Santara, and Khairul, right? And Santara won by 24,000 votes, right? And the next candidate, Subramaniam, he got 18,000 votes. And the third candidate, Khairul, he lost his deposit because he only got 22,600 votes, all right? If we move further to the right, you'll see that again, the name, the candidate's name, the gender, right? All 3 candidates are male. But what about their ethnicity, right? In Malaysia, we have, Chinese, Malay, Indian, and other ethnicity. So Indian, and Malay, okay? And this is the political coalition that they represent. The National Front, the People Justice Party, and the Malaysian Islamic Party, okay? You can ignore all the data here, right? Because they are just repeating, okay? So just look at until M is good enough. Okay, so let me do a very simple analysis, right? I want to know how many women candidates in the whole parliamentary election. Okay, we know that they are gender for all the candidates, right? But I want to know how many males and how many female. Okay, and I want to know that, how many among all the male candidates, how many of them won, right? And among the female candidates, how many of them won, right? Is it easier to win an election as a female candidate, or is it easier to win as a male candidate, for example? Okay, that's the analysis we want to do, right? To do that, we are going to use pivot table again. Okay, so I will demonstrate to you very easy, just a few steps, you can get the numbers. Again, how do you start a pivot table? You select all, Control A, go to data, go to pivot table, click create. Okay, now you have the pivot table, right? So under role, what do we put in here? Which column? We have to put in gender, right? Because we want to calculate how many males and how many females candidates, right? Each role is one candidate. Okay, so now we put it under role, we'll put in gender. So now you have female and male. Okay, we want to know number, how many of them, right? So the thing that is not very easy to understand is that under values, this is values, right? You also put in gender and you will get a number. This means, right, how many times male, the word male, appears under the column of gender, and how many times the word female appears under gender. Okay, so now you know that, among all the 687 candidates, only 74 of them are female and the rest are male, right? In Malaysia, we don't recognize third gender or cisgender, transgender, no. It's whether you are man or woman, okay? So what I will do is that I'm going to copy this data. Usually this is what I do. I'll put in a new tab and then I'll just store it here, okay? Maybe I'll calculate the percentage. Okay, how do you calculate percentage? Okay, let me just grab also the total. Okay, total. I also need a total. Okay, so the percentage is equal to the number divided by the total candidates times 100%. Okay, and I can copy my formula and put it here. Then I get error. Just check because you are dividing a blank cell, right? So just change that cell to the cell, right? B3 divide by B4 and times 100. Okay, so now you know that the ratio is about 90% versus 10%. Okay, which is quite sad, right? Only 10% of the candidates are female. Okay, how about candidates who won, right? Who won the election? Okay, let's go back to pivot table. We want to know who won and who lost and who lost the deposit, right? Probably. So in this case, you're able to add another column. You know, add column means that here you want to further look at the breakdown of female and male. You can add column and look at status. Status means, if you still remember, status means either they menang, won, they lost is blank, or they hilang deposit. Okay, lost that deposit. So under column, I'm going to put in status. Aha, now we have male and female break down by their status. Isn't this great, right? This is great. You don't have to do filter here and then, you know, filter, you don't have to filter the status and filter the gender and then manually calculate them, manually calculate how many of them. You can just use a pivot table. So let me just copy this data, put into a new tab because I want to do a quick calculation. Okay, so this is total number of female and male. Okay, I will put it here. Right, this is the grand total of male and female candidates. Okay, this is the candidates who won the election. And these two are the candidates who lost the election. So I'm going to add them up because lost deposit is the same as lost election, right? Just different status. So I'm going to put lost and I will add up this and this. Okay. Then I will have all this add up, right? Then I have lost these 3 columns. I'm going to copy. When I paste here, remember guys, you have to paste values only, because if you just copy paste, you'll see the number change, right? Because you are pasting the formula, not the data. Okay, so when I'm going to paste this is our formula, right? Because I add up these 2 numbers. So if you don't want to copy the formula and put it here, which means add up these 2 numbers, you want to copy the number, just the data, right? You do copy and you paste specials. Yeah, correct. Sorry. Paste specials, values only, right? Okay, let me just give more space here. Now I have to have the data. The total, how many won, how many lost. Okay. So now I can calculate won percentage and the loss percentage. Okay, so if you are a female candidate, right, the percentage who won divided by the total female candidates, right, times 100 is 42%, right? The percentage of female candidate who lost, right, is 58%. Okay, but compared to man has a higher percentage of losing, right, of winning, and higher percentage of losing, right? Of course, because they have more, there are more male candidates, right? So probably this kind of competition is not, this kind of comparison is not that fair. Okay, but you can also look at if you don't want to look at this, right, you can also look at how many of the candidates who won are male and female, right? So you can calculate the percentage, contest percentage, and won percentage, right? This is for female, and sorry, you don't have to do female. How many percent of female candidates? Okay. Divide by the total times 100%. And how many of candidates are male? It's the same calculation that we did just now. Okay. And out of those who won, how many of them are women? Okay. So you can see that among the candidates who won, I should change it to candidates, right? 10% are women, 90% are men. Among who won the candidates who won the election, 40% are female and 86% are male, right? So using those numbers, you are able to see, write a story about the gender equality in the elections, right? The representation in elections. And of course, you want to get more detail about it. You can also look at different states, right? This is Negeri is a state or provinces, in your country, right? Provinces, right? So you can look at in which states has higher representation of women candidates and women lawmakers. Okay, you can do that by adding another row. There can be multiple row and multiple columns. Yeah, you look at what happened if I add the state Negeri to row. You'll see that there will be a breakdown. Female of different states in different states, and then male in different states. Okay, you can also change the sequence, which one is higher and lower. If you go higher, you will see that the state comes first. For example, Johor is the state, and you will see in Johor the number of female and male candidates. This is the candidates, and female and male lawmakers who won the election. Okay, so just play with the different columns here and see what results you get, right? You're able to do a lot of analysis by using pivot table. That is all I want to show you today. Okay, I believe our session is recorded, so if you're not sure, you want to look at how some of the things are done, feel free to play back the video again. Okay, so before, let me just hand it over to Juan. I'm sorry that I overshoot for 10 minutes.
No worries. Thank you so much, Kang. It's really useful. And guys, if you feel that you want to learn more about pivot table or spreadsheet and you don't have much time to practice right now, you can just go to YouTube or Google how to do that, because the most important thing is what it can be done by spreadsheet. Now you know that, and then if you forget how to do it and you forget the steps, then you can just Google it. It's the easiest way to learn data journalism.
Sorry, Juan, we need to ask them to fill up the post-workshop test, right?
Yes. There are 2 more forms that you need to fill, guys. Sorry, too much forms today. Okay. So the first form is, there is a form from Adelina. It's the evaluation form by PPMN, but we also have the post-test form. I just send the link on the chat room. So please fill the form so we know it basically the same question with the pre-test. So maybe now the answer will be different from the first one. So yeah, take time to fill that form. Is there any questions?
I think some of you asked for the
Yeah.
link to the spreadsheet. I'm sharing it with you. I have two spreadsheets. The first one is on the ads spending. The second one is on the candidates analysis. So I'm going to share both in the chat box. Give me a minute. This is the second spreadsheet. Yeah, so you can look at the formula that I put inside. Okay.
Okay.
Actually, there are not many formula, just the pivot table. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Let me know what else you want, then I can put in there. Yeah, there are a lot of tutorials done by me on YouTube as well. Just go to YouTube and search for my name. You should be able to find something there.
Yeah, and also there's a question from Christina. I would like to make clear here with my question. The result of percentage we get from grand total and what it is, right?
Let me just share my screen again. I'm not sure like your questions. You are asking for the, is it the gender? Okay, cool. I think it's the second one right here. So from here, yeah, this is the, are you referring to this, the result percentage grand total is 1. So I want to find out, among those who contest, right? This is the contest. Grand total is how many candidates, right? Among the 687, right? How many percent are male? How many percent are female, right? This is the number, okay? But among those who won, who became member of parliament, right? We want to know how many percent of them are female, how many percent of them are male. And so I hope that answers questions. If not, you let me know again.
Yeah, Christina, is it answer your question, or do you have more question about it? Okay.
Okay, I say that, is there any extended reading recommendations, suggestions? My suggestions would be, look at how big publications, right, done reporting analysis, election analysis, right? I already showed some of them in my slides, so those should be good, right? Some of those should be good. Just go and Google, to look at those websites, and for example, New York Times, Reuters, and to see how they cover their elections. So Singapore, you are looking at Straits Times. Malaysia, you are looking for Malaysia Kini. Yeah, look at our regional partners. Most of the Reuters story are actually done by the Reuters team in Singapore. It's not the team from Malaysia, from the US. It's actually their Singapore team, right? Their Singapore team is very, very strong as well. So probably those are some of the publications that you should look at, right? If you want to get more inspiration, right? Just put in election data analysis, and look at those publications. Yeah, should give you many good inspiration about it. Okay. Just now, I said also mentioned that on YouTube, you are able to search for a tutorial. Let me just do it. If you just search for my name, then you'll be able to see there are like, different tutorials that I have done. Okay. There are quite a lot of them there. Or you can go to the one good resources is actually the Google News Initiative channel, the Google News Initiative channel. They have many playlists in different languages about fact-checking, about data journalism, about different online tools, right? Not just on data journalism, of course. So you can have a look and see which one you see that teaching data journalism, right? Different titles. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Is there any other question? And while we are in the Q&A session, I think you can also use the time to fill the form. So don't forget to fill the post-test form.
I'm going to check you guys, right? There are only 4 of you. Come on, we need more.
Come on, yeah. Okay.
Can do for us. Okay. While you are filling up the form, I might be able to share with you something. Give me 1 minute.
Okay, cool.
So I'm going to show you a list of websites that I like that does data journalism really good. Okay, I have actually a list. I did not put it in my Google Slides. So I'm going to put it now, right? So right now you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 different groups of news publications that do good DDJ. DDJ means data-driven journalism, right? The first group are the international newsrooms based in the West, right? US, Europe. You see New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal.
Okay. The screen is still the posters.
Okay.
So we haven't seen the.
Let me try again.
Yeah. Yes, cool. Now
okay.
We can see it.
The first group is from the West. Okay. You will be able to see the link, all the links inside here. I will share with you I'll put it in the Google Slides, right? The links are not going to their homepage, right? It's going to their data page, their data story page. Okay. So those are the links. The second group is English media based in Asia, right? You have Hindustan Times, Straits Times, Singapore, Malaysia, South China Morning Post, India Span, Dawn also based in New Delhi, India. Third groups are non-English media based in Asia. So we have Tempo, Kompas, got the data from
Indonesia.
Good, right? Actually, one is missing. Rappler is also very good from the Philippines. Okay. Yeah. And the last group, right, is actually those are online awards or online database that you can follow. They have highlighted all the best data journalism stories published internationally, especially the top 10 in data journalism by GIJN. This is a really good resource because it will tell you, I think every week or every 2 weeks, it will tell you, what are the top 10 data stories, published by different publications in that week, right? It is not a newsletter. You just need to subscribe to I think you can subscribe to the newsletter, or you just have to keep going back to see the top 10. Okay, that is a web page. All right, I'm going to share with you this in the Google Slides so that you can have access.
Yeah, cool. Now before we wrap up and say goodbye, please turn on your camera, guys, because we will take a group photo. Oh. I know it's a virtual group photo, but
that's good.
Yeah, that's the best we can do. So please turn on your video. We want to see you. Hello, hello, hello.
What's your face, guys?
Yeah. Okay. Come on, guys. More videos. Okay. We're still waiting. 1 minute. Anissa, Gloria, Gina. I start calling their names. Dina. Yeah. Okay, let's take the picture. Smile. 1, 2, 3. Smiles. Let me take another page because we have 2 pages here. So 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. Thank you so much for today. Thanks for Kang.
Thank you, everyone. So remember to fill up the 2 forms, right? And
yeah. Before I say goodbye, I want to remind you again to fill the form. There are 2 forms, and please fill the forms. It's just 2 minutes or 3 minutes. And thank you so much for your time. Yes, Christina.
I fill my form before when you announced in the beginning our meeting. I feel
it's the same form, so you have to fill it again. So it's like pre-workshop and post-workshop.
Yeah.
We just want to know, if you have changed some of your answers after the workshop.
Yeah. So basically, the questions are the same,
Yes.
but yeah, perhaps we assume that the answer will be different. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and also the evaluation form, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much, and bye-bye, everyone. Have a great day.